Hi Irene.
Here we are at Braemar Gallery, Springwood, and do come in and have a look at my show. And my show is currently on in the 3 rooms that we're about to have a look at, and it is called Nudes and Orchids. Now, we're now looking at a photograph of the show I had last year in Penrith, in the Civic Centre, and that was called Aspects of Vision. Now, in Penrith, I had to put my male nudes in an inconspicuous place in case they offended the ratepayers coming to pay their rates. And but here, there's absolutely no such restriction. I've had the easiest time I've ever had in a gallery, being able to show the pictures that I want. And I really take my hat off to Braemar for this, that there was no sense of you didn't ought to. And even orchids, you see, they're very naughty things, orchids, and for a long time people weren't allowed to paint them. Because the word orchid comes from orchis, which means testicle. And, of course, this is a male name, turns out, that because they saw the bulb as like a testicle, and so they sort of didn't say anything about the flowers, which are outrageously female. And I find that very interesting, that there's an orchid here, just behind you. They're a curious mixture of being very prim and blatantly displaying themselves, which I have found fascinating. I grow them myself, and these are orchids that I have reared in Blackheath. Some people are surprised that you can rear orchids in Blackheath, but you can. This is a single flower from an orchid, and I painted it with it's oil colour with wax, which is unusual, and it just gives that gentle glow, which I think is typical of orchids. This is Eve giving Adam's rib back to him. It's mixed media on paper, and I just thought it was about time that he got his rib back, because we really don't need it. This is Girl with Balloons. It is actually of my daughter, and she was, one of her boyfriends had let her down, and she was annoyed, and so I think the balloons tell the story here. She's now happily married, I'm glad to say, and with a delightful man. There she is. These are called Gone Bush, and they're sketches. A group of us went out and took models out into the bush, and the man, as you can see, climbed trees, and a great deal more art can be done like this, just having naked human beings in the wild outside. I hope to do some more sometime. And there are the 2 of them. And the girl was very happy to be naked outside, but she insisted on wearing boots in case she was bitten by a snake. Well, in this room, we have, as usual, a mixture of orchids and nudes. What I really want, there's Happy Man here, and this is really an energy picture. The more you look at it, the happier he gets. The male body, the male nude, from a female perspective. We now know that the male and female brains are different. So it follows that our perspective on art is different. And I find that there's just a huge amount to be painted from my female perspective. And really, there's very little done women looking at the male figure from our view. We've had no end of female nudes all through history by men. But what about this male nude by a woman? And I think we see quite different things. It is amazing that, because if our brains are different, then we need to be taught differently. We see differently, and our angle of vision is utterly different. And so, I mean, the perspective is obviously there with nudes, that we identify with female nudes and we look at male nudes as the other. Now, there's quite a different male nude here called Balance, and probably if you look carefully at that picture you will see that there's a female element in it. The white circle with the silver is obviously a female element. Looking further along we get the Emperor, who has no clothes of course, and all the passion is in the background. So when we want to come around the other way, and we'll find a watercolour called Shagged Man between two orchids. Well, this is Shagged Man, and he had to be put into a very inconspicuous place indeed down in Penrith. So now here he is in all his glory, and I think he's totally charming myself. I think to see a man totally satisfied and remembering is a really nice thing to paint. This is just Woman on Orange, and she's a body. I can paint a woman without having to show her as a sexual object, although she obviously is, but she's quite confident with her body, which is quite heavy and voluptuous, the way many women's bodies are. But she's inhabiting it. She's not really wanting any sort of overtures. She's just lying there happily. The name of this one is Virgins, and it's the only one that combines an orchid with a human figure. And it probably takes a little while to see. It's a very sophisticated picture to my mind, although it looks simple. But they're inhabiting different worlds, almost different universes. They're in a way, they're trying to connect, but at the same time, they can't do it. And I really see this as the two halves of my brain. The orchid is the right half of my brain, and the orange male figure is the left half of my brain, who tries to dominate, but is actually almost in thrall to the orchid, to the right brain. And so the more you look at that, I think people are going to find very interesting things in it. Although at first all you see is just sort of bright colours and apparently simple shapes. Well, this is almost an abstract female figure. Anyone who does painting will see that it has very important negative shapes. And I just like it. I think that it establishes itself. You don't want to alter it, at least I don't want to alter it. And it's one of the ways I want to go in painting, is to take a figure and take it beyond simply looking at it. And so I just think it has authority as a picture. This is the second room of my exhibition at Braemar Gallery in Springwood. And I think here we can look at technique. And there's a variety of methods of painting and drawing the nude. Well, this is probably the most graphic of my nudes. It was done rather earlier, and girl on chaise longue, which is a cliche. But at the same time, I still think that seeing it, that a man would do that differently. He probably turned the woman round so that more of her breast showed and things, but I think that the fact that she's sort of looking over into the distance, she's a real person and not just an object to be looked at. You'll see that I signed that painting YHI, and that's an Aboriginal word. I used that earlier on. It's an energy word, and it's the little story is that the sun woman lit her fire in the dawn, watched it go over the sky over all day and die out at night in the evening. Now, I found that a totally charming story, and it got rid of the old male sun god that a lot of Western people had to live with. And so YHI is for me a very liberating upward energy word, and I don't even know how to pronounce it. This pair of paintings, woman and man, show a way of painting and drawing the nude that I think I've invented, actually, where you start with doing the watercolour, the background, and then you take charcoal and on the damp paper you do your drawing, and the charcoal bites into the paper in a way that it does not do if the paper's dry. It only takes about 10 minutes, and so you get a very fresh feeling about the model and the situation that you're in. It requires intense concentration for a short time, and I use this method in preference to any other if I'm painting as part of a group and the model is only going to be there for a maximum of 10 minutes in that position. And so you can do half a dozen in one sitting, but quite frankly, at least as far as I'm concerned, some turn out a lot better than others. So I think those sum up to me an aspect of the female and male. This has also used the same technique, and what I really like to say is that I would like to see this technique used, especially by women. I do guide people in what I call my art process so that they can do it. You can't just do it directly. It's necessary, first of all, to draw with one's eyes shut, very relaxed, just to get used to the charcoal, and then gradually work with colour so that you choose your favourite colour first, and each colour creates a famine for another colour. So you then find the colour that is the famine of the one that you've just put down. Well, this is White Lady, and that's just a very simple impression. What I think, you see, so I'm blamed sometimes for painting too much variety. What is said is that you should have, your show should consist of 12 paintings, all variations on a single theme. Well, for one thing, I think there's far too much to paint. I can't do it like that. And for another, I have a very strong sense of curiosity. I'm exploring the whole time. And I think I also like working in groups, but I like everybody to do entirely their own thing. And so this is what we do up in Blackheath, at the Blackheath Art Society in Thursdays. Different things happen on different days, but on Thursdays this is what we do as individuals. We paint our own pictures. And on the whole, I see too little curiosity, too little sense of adventure in people. They tend to think they know what a painting ought to look like before they start. And so they're really painting cliches. And it's a tremendous job to help people to see that art is a lot different from that. It's very exciting. It's a very personal thing. And you are going to go ahead of most other people, but don't be scared of that, because other people will catch up. They can't see anything else unless you do it and show it them. And so I'm hoping that people will see that an apparently very specific thing like life drawing really is as unlimited and boundless as any other type of art.
So Irene, you've got the real estate agent coming in a little while.
Yes.
The house is on the market.
Yes.
And you haven't washed up for a while.
That's right. So I'm catching up on the washing up. But my brain isn't doing the washing up, as you'll probably see. My brain is on philosophy. And we were just talking before I realised that I had to get the washing up done. It's how we use our brain. Male philosophers are very annoyed with their brain. They criticise it because it's evolved. They can't use it like a computer. They can't just post anything into their brain and then come up with some answer or other. And the latest thing that men want to do, by men, I don't mean all men, I mean physicists particularly, they want to imagine the universe from no one particular point. And when you do that, or when you try to do that, for one thing, the brain really won't accept that, because the brain has developed as a functioning organ to keep us alive, basically, and to program us to have children and keep them alive. Now that's the sort of fundamental thing. Now this is a very female thing. And for men, it's irritating. They want to make the jump, the leap, from being this one person in this place at this time to being a sort of disembodied everybody or everything. To try to, they keep talking about the theory of everything. That's what they're trying to find. And so they get theories that match up in a limited context. And then they find that this appalling gap between like the very small and the very big. And they try to unify that. They try to bridge that gap. Well, in my book, Mind the Gap, I'm talking of gaps rather than things, and I found it extremely productive. It's really an amazing way of thinking about things. For one thing, there are so many gaps. There are billions of gaps. We've even got billions of gaps in our own brain, like the synapses, so that the messages through the brain go from across the synapses, turning into chemistry, from an electrical signal to chemistry back to an electrical signal. This means that everything in our brain is imprecise. That gives it breadth, and it gives it a way of survival. It helps our survival that we are imprecise, and in all our thinking. But of course, from the scientific view, this is appalling. And in my book, I said it was like Alice in Wonderland trying to play croquet with a flamingo as the whatever it's called, the croquet bat, whatever it's called, something, and the ball is a hedgehog, and so they both have minds of their own, what's the name of it? It's a croquet mallet. That's right, a croquet mallet, so poor old Alice in Wonderland obviously doesn't get far with her croquet playing. Well, and this is what men find so annoying. But I think we've arrived, you and I, with a word for this. We say, how interesting. If that's the world we're living in, with a flamingo and a hedgehog, and we're trying to play croquet, and everything moves and changes, we say how interesting, but to a man he says how infuriating. I can't get everything together. I can't make a single law that's going to be universal, unchanging, with my name on it. This is what the male wants to do, and which of course in a sense is just as unidirectional, it's just as tethered to the here and now as anything else, but it only appears to be something that he wants to do, which has that universality that it would be true wherever he is in the universe. And of course they now all play with quantum mechanics, quantum theory, quantum this, that and the other. But it's quite possible that that isn't right. To say, golly, perhaps energy isn't equal to E equals mc squared. That's mass times, and I never know what that C means. Do you? Do you know what C means? No, never mind. Doesn't matter. I've got to wash up.